Gloves for this one because dry ice is dangerous stuff. Alright, so if I take my burr, which I need to plug in, maybe I do need Johnny, he can plug stuff in as I need it. Need my plugger in. Only have one plug today. Now I can take this dry ice and apply it, and you'll see how nice and clear and pretty this is? Now what's it doing? See the cracks it made? Plug this one in there. You can see how I took that dry ice and I just ground a little bit off and threw the snow of that dry ice onto this block, and it all started to crack up. Okay, so it's a reverse thermal shock, so you have to be careful of that. So in competition, that's very important. You have to watch out for that. Another thing, another one of our test words is this ice is sitting here and it's melting all over the floor. That's melting. But if it was sitting in a freezer, if it sat in a freezer long enough, it would disappear. What is it doing?
Sublimating.
When it disappears. Anybody know? Come on, no physics guys out there, majors, nobody. If you put a block of ice in a freezer, right now it's melting. It's changing state. It's going from a solid to a liquid. It's melting. Okay? If you put it in a freezer and you let it sit there for months, it would disappear. It would be gone. What is it doing? It's not melting. There's no puddle on the floor. It's a freezer. It's staying frozen. What's it doing? What is evaporation? Evaporation is changing from a liquid to a gas. This is not a liquid. This is a solid. See this? What is it? Sublimation. They win a prize. Go give them a coin. I gotta keep my box full or I'll be in trouble. Sublimation. We're changing from a solid to a gas. Okay? Alright. Remember that. There's a test afterwards.
We have to know the right time. We're gone too long. All the ice in the freezer.
Any questions so far? No questions so far. Okay, what I'm going to do with this chunk right here is I'm going to make a head. Okay, I'm going to start off with the face, and then I'll work on the hair. Okay? Now, a lot of people when they're doing things, they're going to take their block of ice and they're going to cut out the head or whatever, and they're going to use the block like this. I want you to look at your neighbor. No, wait, one person has to stay still. The other person, look at your neighbor and tell me, is his face flat? See, is my face flat? No, my face is almost triangular. Okay? So you have to start to understand the anatomy and what you're dealing with. A head is basically, there are, for the most part, between 6 and 7 heads in a body. So I should be able to fit almost 7 of my heads in the length or height of my body. So that's a good approximation of proportion and symmetry. Okay? So if you're making a full body, you need to make sure that you don't have this big old head and this little bitty body, unless it's Mickey Mouse, then it works. Or this little bitty head and this big old body. So you want us to keep things proportional. So between 6 to 7 heads will fit in the height of a person. And you include the head as one of them. Okay? So, in the same respect, a face is almost triangular. Okay? When you're looking at it. So I'm going to work on the corner of the block. Okay? when I make, like just for example, the other day, I have a piece going to Rogers, Arkansas for the LPGA. One of the sponsors is General Mills. I did a Jolly Green Giant. Okay, so he's about 7 feet tall, and I used several blocks of ice, froze it together, but I made the head separately. And I did that because I wanted to work off the corner, but yet I needed to make the whole rest of the body out of the larger portion of the block. Okay? So I take that, I make the head, I get it all shaped, I figure out my proportion and my scale, and I make the head, cut him off at the neck. That sounds good, doesn't it? And put him in the freezer, get him cold. Okay? Then I work on the rest of it. I get all the rest of him all done, break him out, put his head back on, fuse them together, match it all up, he's done. Okay? So you got to kind of start to think that way when you're carving ice. You don't want to think inside the block. You want to think outside the block. How can I make it longer, taller, shorter, fatter? The nose of the horse sticking out a little further so it looks like the horse is kind of taking off a little bit. Give it some life. Okay? Some flow. Flow is very important in an ice sculpture. Any questions? And I'm just pumping this up. Okay. So like I said, I'm primarily going to use one tool to do this. And I'm going to turn this a little bit sideways. Try to give you a little angle of what I do. It's always kind of funny. Anytime I do a demonstration, it's either I'm here blocking your view, or I'm back here and you can't see what I'm doing. Well, I always try and work sideways. If I work sideways, you can see a little bit more. All right. So basically, I'm going to utilize the corner of this block mostly for the nose. Okay, so I'm going to utilize that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to figure out, and I can take and just lightly draw what I'm going to do on here if I need to. But if I figure out, I'm going to use the brow and then the chin, and I need to have enough for some hair. And how do I want it to flow? So I can take a little bit of hair and make it flow. If it's going to be a girl, then I can put a nice long flow into it. If it's going to be a guy, I just need a little bit. I just need a little bit extra ice right there so I can make little lines and give them a little bit of hair. Of course, just like us, I don't have to worry about it. I just make it nice and smooth and round, and you're good to go. Okay, so I get my basic proportion down, and so I know what I want to do. Now I'm going to first start off with the brow. I'm going to do the brow and the chin. Now I take and do the eyes. Kind of figure out your nose is about a third of your face or so. You figure that in there. Give it a spot for the nose. And your nose, you can kind of, as you start to look at a person's face, you start to evaluate how their nose goes around their cheekbone, and you really want to start to look at that person's face. Now, to specifically say, like I have these two girls up here in front, I want to do her face and her face. Well, they have very similar faces. In ice, you're going to have a lot of difficulty separating those two faces, okay? But if I took one of these girls' faces and then a guy, let's say an ugly guy like Mike over here, and he's got a big nose and a beard and everything, I can pick on Mike. I love it. So I've got some distinguishing features. I can give him that beard, I can give him a different style nose, I can give him some character. And so I can identify that person from this person. But people, a lot of people's physical characteristics are so similar, it is very difficult to try to individualize an ice sculpture of a person's face. So you want to try and find those features that make that individual. Larger nose, bigger eyes, a beard, whatever it might be. Okay? So I get a little eye spot in here for the eyes. Okay, I got the nose here like this, and I'm going to take and kind of come around with the cheekbone and come up to the eyes. Okay, now from that point, I've got my nose kind of separated. I can take the flat edge, because basically this tool, this V tool, I'm using the point. As you see, I'm using the point of it a lot. But it also has a flat side. So just like a flat chisel that I can take and I can shave a nice flat section, if I work this tool on its edge, I can create a flat spot. So I can use this tool several different ways. So I'm going to take away some of this cheekbone, and I'm going to take away a little bit of this forehead and round it off a little bit. Give it a little shape, a little contour. I'm just going to start taking away what doesn't belong. Okay? Round it all off a little bit. And I better do this or I won't be able to see what I'm doing here. These glasses are tough on this microphone. Okay. Alright, now I can see a little better. Well, I use the flat side of this just to round things off. And I want a little spot for the mouth. And this is going to be the opening of the mouth. I can take that and I can round this off. This is going to give me a reference point where the mouth is going to be. I might have gotten the mouth a little low. Let's see. Now here I've got the forehead. I want to come down with that forehead and take away a little bit of that. And make that nose blend into the forehead. Alright, so let's get there. Got a cheekbone. A little cheekbone. Now we've got our eyes. Make a general little half moon. We'll do it for the eyes. Now I can take, I'll do it in a minute. I'll make an eyelid there in a minute. From here I've got my mouth open again. And now I want to put lips in here. We got his lips. And here I'm going to flatten out what doesn't belong. Give him a little chin. I think I left enough room that if I give him a little mustache, we'll give him a little mustache in a minute. Alright. Round that off. A little cheekbone. All right, so he's starting to look like a face. What do you think? Who's it look like? Anybody out there want to take credit? No? Okay. But you can see sideways, I'm starting to get all those features. I'm starting to get his brows a little goofy there. We'll fix that up. But we're able to get his nose to stick out, his cheeks to come back from his face, okay? So all that's starting to come into proportion there, all right? So I've got a really good face here. Finish up on the eyes, give him a little eyelid. and I work with